right, so what we have right here, and these guys are just learning it too. This right here is the stab and widen portion. Okay, so we got the guys latched on, with a good base. Hat should be below, and the Rydell sign should be on the chin of the guy that they're blocking. And each guy is pretending that we're running, a white middle, which is our middle return. So 53 should be fanning his guy left, 72 should be fanning his guy right. And once we do that, we should just see a lockout and really get into the hip pocket. You'll see some of these things, and there's some good and there's some bad. And the reason why I put that on there, because, we're always going to see that, right? So we just got to know once we see it, how we're going to coach the guys through it and get them better. So you see 53 right there. Oh, excuse me. Right. Not prepared. Right. Not being strong and sturdy with his hand placement. 72 does a good job initially with his hand placement. Has a good job right with his lateral movement and mobility. Okay, so once he widens him here, now 72 does a good job. I expect him to go ahead and use that left arm and really stab and shoot that thing out. Once he's displaced him, go ahead and be violent, shoot it out, and get on into his hip pocket. Right. This is one of those things about being too aggressive and letting it stay there, right? It's not violent enough. One, good placement, not violent enough. One, right? Shoot it out there. And then at this point in time, drop that left arm and let's go ahead and nudge and get into his hip pocket and let's run, right? We find ourselves being in phase to the right to being out of phase because we continue to keep our left arm attached to the guy that we're blocking. Okay, so that's something that that's important that we coach on, so those guys don't stay attached at that point in time. Let's go ahead and get going and run. All right. If we're looking to the left, we already have bad footwork, right? And we already know once you start crossing your feet over, you lose your base. You're able to get thrown around any direction that the opposing defender or whoever decides that they want to throw you to. So now he has lost leverage. He's lost his base. He obviously reclaimed it. And you notice, right, the guy, whoever's on the opposite side, and we evaluate them too, is obviously not violent enough with his hand placement and doing what he's supposed to do. He wasn't able to get the man's hands off of him. So 36 was able to recoup and get a base where he wanted it to be. All right, at this point in time, shoot, get in your hip, and go. All right. If we're looking to the right, okay, again, it's not violent enough, right? We just laying our hand there and just sitting in the hand placement is way too low. All right, when it comes to this, all right, guys, when we talking about these things and we explain those, I mean, it's like throwing a jab. I expect violence, right? I want suddenness when you throw a thing out there, right? Shoot, lock it out, and then get into his hip. All right, you see 9 to the left. Initially have the proper leverage, but for whatever reason got overzealous and jumped out and lost leverage immediately. Okay, so that would be something that we would discuss and talk about. If you have leverage, keep it. If you don't, get it. It's that simple. Okay, so I would like for him to stay right there, stay firmly entrenched with that right foot down. Okay, and if we're looking to the right, that's a great job of violence and strong hands. We talked about no penalties at the line of scrimmage, which I haven't seen one yet. This is a great job of just being violent with his hands. And if that's the one we're talking about, right? So at some point in time, right, the punt team member was trying to release inside and do all of the things that he was doing. But after the mental clock went off in his head, he said, you know what, I probably need to just go the way that he's taking me. And so now there's the violence, right? That's a strong lockout right there. You can see what he's doing to the body position of the opposing player. Okay. Now, once he gets that, now we can let this thing go and go run. Right. You see now, because we keep it there, that we're able to get stacked. Right. So that's, again, the communication and the coaching point that's being had right there. Initially strong by 21. Right. Strong hands. Good lockout. Now let it go and let's go run. Okay. Now, once we get into the release phase, we have many different things that we want to do. Right here is just a simple stutter drill. DBs do it all the time, and it's just working on being able to run track. And when the guy that we're supposed to block sinks his hips, we want to be in position to sit and fit when we're in phase on them. So we just work it. We're running. We shouldn't be attached right there, hand hanging on it. But we give them within 15 yards to basically break down whenever they want to. And all we do is just run and track hips, run and track hips, run and track hips. Right? So up top, you see how we're continuously staying attached. That's not what we want. We want to be able to run. And when it's time to put our hands on the defender, we can put our hands on them. All right. And again, everything that we do, we're evaluating on both sides of it, right? So not only are we looking at the guys that could potentially be on our punt return team, but I want to see who is working their tail off, giving a great look when it comes to being on the other side of it and getting better. Okay, so here's the portion, once we get to that situation at the finish, right? We talked about the sit and fit. This is our sit and fit drill. All right, so we're tracking it. Once we get to the point of attack and we see a breakdown, the first hand that we're going to have is going to be our near hand. We're going to use it to pop the hip. Once we pop the hip, we're going to shoot our far hand that's away from the defender to his opposite number with violence, bang, and run him out. All right, so the first hand is on the hip. We want to displace that hip. We want to throw them off balance, pop the hip, bang, and be violent with the far hand, shoot it, and run them by. Right? So if we're looking to the left, right, 5 doesn't need to lean body-wise into him. All he needs to do is just throw that hand on the hip so he can shoot the left hand to the far 1, right? That's all we need. Hand, hip, throw the hook, right? If we're looking to the right, way too soon. Way too soon. We're out of phase. Now we're not connected to that player. That's going to be a block in the back. We're out of phase right here. So we want to make sure that we get in phase, pop the hip, and then throw our hand to the opposite number to get us back in position to get our hat across. All right, so that's a good hip pop right here to the left by 47. Bang, you see what it does, a 39's hip in his body right there. Bang. Now I just want to see him get that left hand all the way to the 3, all right, to get it all the way across his body, and that'll allow his head to clear as well, so we clear ourselves of any blocks in the back. All right, so this was just an example of one. We're just trying to little competition situation in terms of getting to the cone, sit and fit, and then use the tools that we've taught our guys on the punt team in order to get on top of this guy, throw him by, whatever the case may be, to get to the cone. But it was a great job. I just wanted to show this here because I didn't put the retrace portion of it, and understanding that, hey guys, at some point in time, these guys, if they're getting deeper than the return man, they're going to have to track back to the returner. So this is kind of encompasses everything in this one-on-one situation. So he does a good job of sitting down. All right, hand placement, boom. He has a great job right here. He does a great job right here of sitting his butt down and retracing, getting hands back into the body of the defender, and he just tracks back. And again, he continues to keep his butt between the man and the returner. So he gives the returner a butt to run off of in the middle situation. All right, so now we're talking about we too high on the guy that we're supposed to block. So this is our speed, turn, and flatten situation. If you're looking to the right, all right, our guy, he's a receiver, okay? So not necessarily understand it's the first time he did it, okay? We demonstrated it, but it didn't necessarily register. So you see once he gets to the top side, he wants to put his foot in the ground and then try to retrace that way. He gets his hips locked, and now all of a sudden he's beat, and the defender is able to get on top and clear him. Okay, so we put this on here just so the guys understand what it looks like, why we want to speed turn, and where we're trying to meet the defender out, and then where we're trying to meet the defender out at, and then flatten them across the formation. So we see it, right? Bang, speed turn, and then get your hands, locate, flatten them out. Bang, does a good job, obviously, at DB. So he does a really good job, obviously, not necessarily forcing himself to flatten this guy out, but he finds a way to retrace and get his butt in between the returner and the defender. Okay, so the last thing at the finish that we talk about, if we're not in phase, and if you notice that now our punt return guy is not attached to the defender, so we put a cone down here just working on setting our high screen. Okay, so instead of chasing and chasing the defender, now once we're detached from the guy that we're supposed to be blocking, we're going to track ourselves directly to the returner and meet him there, all right, and shoot the high screen, right? And we want to make sure that we throw that uppercut with the near hand, all right, and get our number, the back of our number onto his shoulder pads, all right, and shoot through. Okay, so this is an example, right, of trying to throw it too soon. Okay, get there, throw it at the last possible minute, but he does a great job of clearing his hips through at the last minute as well. So this is an example, right? We started out away, right, and detached from the defender, out of phase, but we find ourselves getting back in phase before we get to the returner. So this was a good coachable moment to teach our guy, because we talked about what we do in phase. We sit and fit. So if he's back in phase, instead of just throwing the high screen too soon, right? Let's go ahead and sit and fit this guy right here. Pop his hip, pop his hip and run him by. Okay, so that's something that we can talk about, right? That's why we put that on there. Okay, another example, being out of phase. It's a good job right there, shooting and clearing and getting the hip through, getting the back of the jersey onto those shoulder pads, right? So those are some of the drills. And just finally, guys, you know, I just firmly believe in, if we're going to have a situation that, you know, we go through within the course of a game or through a course of a season, we're going to rep it. Whether we do it, you know, just so we make sure that the guys have awareness of it. It's not necessarily anything crazy, but this is just a Peter drill. All right, so we have 2 returners, one on the far side and one on the near side. We got 2 coaches throwing balls, bad balls. We just got guys running down in lanes of 3. All right, the returners are just running toward the football, pointing, yelling, Peter, Peter, Peter. All right, the guy's responsibility once that happens is to peel off and get to the near sideline. All right, so we just rep this a couple times during camp just to continue to create awareness of it and understand the process and what it looks like. Okay, so that's what we do, guys. And you know, it's been good for us. It's nothing crazy, but all we do is we want to make sure that we rep and give the guys everything that they need in the toolbox, so they never feel like they're out of position. They never feel like they're unprepared to go out there and execute their individual assignment. Okay, that's my information, guys. I'm going to share it in the group as well. Just want to make sure.